What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, and welcome to Beyond 2D. I'm one of your hosts, Jessica Dugas, and this is my fabulous, under the weather fairly, co-host over here.
Hi, I'm Farron. You know what? I sound like my dad when I talk. What is that?
It comes out every now and then.
All I hear is my dad's voice. Anyway, Farron Dozier, retired Army Sergeant First Class. A little bit under the weather today,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm here.
I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that we're back. And I also have been a little bit under the weather today. I took my girls to dance this morning, and I had a migraine. And I said, when I get home, I'm just gonna lay down. So I literally set my alarm for 5:30.
Do we get any sick time?
No,
Oh, all right.
because we have 2 weeks. If you need to plan your sickness for the 2 weeks that we have between episodes.
Got you. I'll make sure I talk to my white cells.
I'm done. Okay. So this is Beyond 2D. We have some pretty interesting conversations here, and we started one last episode. We're talking about resilience for this series, and it's an interesting it's been an interesting examining for me because, as per usual, anytime I talk about anything on the show, my life follows suit with examples of ways for me to practice what we're talking about.
It's supposed to.
See?
It's supposed to.
We're so good here. We're so good here. It's great and wonderful. So last week, resilience, we mentioned the definition, the ability of a person to adjust or recover readily from illness, adversity, major life changes, etc. And then we learned a new word, boys and girls, called buoyancy.
Hey, check it out. I'm listening to my Christian hip hop channel, and I heard buoyancy in a rap. I was like, I know that word now.
This is an educational program. I don't know what you thought you were hosting.
All day, every day.
I love it. And so do you want to take a moment and just briefly, share a little bit of what your initial thoughts were when we talked about resilience, just the definition of and kind of explaining it last week?
I just believe that when we use words like resilient, we're replacing that with something that caused us to not be resilient, like a disappointment or something. So now I got to be this resilient person to push through and bounce back, but yet really I'm not really resilient. It's just a way. So to me, it's one of those words that's a label that describes an experience or behavior. But I also believe it's used. We replace it with an authentic way of being to become resilient from a disappointment or something that And so to be able to bounce back from what though? Oh, because I started this talk show with you, and now it's not fun anymore. So I don't want to do it anymore because it's not fun for me. Right.
I could see people that I don't think we talked about that last week. I could see people using resilience or inability to be resilient as an excuse for not wanting to visit certain things.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. For me, there's so many words in the English language that are labels. That's the word that catches all of the emotions and experiences. But then what is that resilient for you? Because it might be different for everybody else and what resilience is. Right. And so for me, it's just another label, and you have to peel resilience off to get to the bottom of why did I have to become resilient? Oh, because I was disappointed by this thing that I did, or I didn't complete this one project, and I can't bounce back. So I'm going to be resilient to force myself through to get it done.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. And I think we need to ask ourselves more questions. I think that's how I left off last episode, is as a willingness to ask ourselves more questions. And maybe not ask so many questions when it comes to other people's resilience. Brittany and I talked about the joy in minding your own business on Project Joy last week. Because listen, I'm the first one to say absolutely see something, say something, speak up. Like if you have an experience, tell your story, speak up. But on the same token, we're in everybody's business all the time, and social media has not helped with that.
Oh
And
no.
so we get up on our little judgy pedestal when people start to talk about like not doing something, and we're like, well, why aren't they resilient? Just work on
Exactly.
your resilience, and we get real judgy about it. So I think
Yeah.
we need to examine if we're asking ourselves enough questions, and are we asking other people too many questions about their resilience.
And you pointed to the other word that is another catch-all for me is circumstances. We all got circumstances, right?
Everybody.
Everybody. So then what is the real circumstance that you're dealing with so that you can get help in that circumstance so it's no longer a label. Oh,
Yeah.
I need help in this area. Then you find support in that area. But if we just walk around saying I got all these circumstances and struggles, then it's like you're trapped in your own language.
Right. Yep.
So no, I don't like the resilience term.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I remember from last week too, and that I'm still that really is heavy on my heart today is that word buoyant, is about bouncing back, and is the question, should we bounce back to what was, or maybe because that maybe bouncing back is keeping us from moving forward.
The personal development classes that I've been in the last 14 years, I forget this one distinction that we deal with is being incomplete.
Hmm.
And so
Oh
how
yeah.
how how can you move forward if there's so much in your life that you can feel that's incomplete? Right?
Hmm.
Because really that incompletion lives over here. It's not over where you are. It's over here in my space. So
Yep.
then if I feel like there's something incomplete, then I've got to do the work to see where that's coming from. And maybe that's what's holding me back. So I got to be resilient. Again, I got to be resilient through all of my mess. It's like like who then what kind of person am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
It's a lot
pretending.
to, it's very layered. If you guys missed last episode, I definitely encourage you to go check that out. We had a lot of good thoughts to kick off this conversation. And today we are on a schedule to discuss building resilience in a I guess to me, I think it of a more what's the word that I'm looking for?
Self-awareness.
Yeah, and awareness, and also like actual tools that we can use, like logistics, like the logistical side of
Oh, okay.
resilience maybe too. But I guess let's start out by asking the question, is it possible to practice resilience without a circumstance that requires resilience? Is it possible to practice resilience without a circumstance that requires resilience? I'm going to put that in a banner for y'all. Okay. While Farron gets himself together.
Yeah, I need to get myself together because I already have an issue with the word. So now you want me to figure out,
Yeah.
yeah, resilience. It comes from a survival state of mind, though. It's an activity. See, if I'm using that I'm resilient, you're gonna see me doing something to
Mm,
be resilient. When actually there's an experience that comes with being resilient as well. So what tools or what circumstance, I mean, just pick one.
yeah.
I mean, we have, like I said, if you have a circumstance or a concern and it becomes a worry, then you're worried about something and now you have a concern, and then it's like it's all tied, like you said, it's so many
Yeah.
layers to it. How do
Yeah.
you start peeling that layer off? Unless you, for me, I had to start telling the truth to myself about myself.
Mm,
That's why I said self-awareness, because there were some things that I'm worried about that I don't even need to be worried about. Like you said, with people, like why am I even worried about certain things in life?
yeah.
So it's too many layers.
I try to think when we're preparing for this topic today. I tried to think in a way. I try to go back to like a really simple concept, so to make myself get into this headspace that we're trying to be in here. Okay, so I think about exercising. I know for me, I have a
Mm-hmm.
longer recovery time when I
Mm-hmm.
exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for me to practice resilience to assist myself in coming back afterwards, I need to stretch first. I
Mm.
need to plan my exercises so that I'm doing, like, I have certain ones that I do depending on what my pain level is the day that when I wake up in the morning and I get up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my exercise. I evaluate what my pain level is and I go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that this is going to determine what exercise I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stretch first because I'm preparing my body because I want to bounce back
Mm-hmm.
okay, if not better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in a very simple sense, when we think of it like that, like of using tools, it's preparing ourselves. I think it's more about preparedness for me. But I think the key, like so many other things in personal development, is not getting wrapped up in what we expect the outcome to be. If we
Mm.
expect to bounce back, now you've got a problem because you're not guaranteed that you're going to bounce back no matter how much preparation you do.
So physical actually is one of my. It's the last one on my list, but you took
Mm.
it as number one. So physical.
It's
I
just an
mean,
example.
no, it's a perfect example because here it goes back to it. You're pointing to the physical aspect of being
Mm,
resilient, but you're also silently pointing to the emotional aspect of
right.
resilience, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that as people, we discount our experiences.
Mm,
We suppress the disappointment. We suppress the upset. We suppress the past disappointments. But if you embrace that disappointment, like you said, and say, okay, you know what? I can't work out like I did last week.
right.
Let me see what can I do to fulfill that workout part of my body that I want to. So when I'm done exercising, I can feel like I've accomplished something. Like that's a
Yeah.
physical, but it's also just as much mental as it is a physical.
Yeah.
And so, what are we bouncing back from? Is it we bouncing back from the physical aspect, or we bouncing back from the mental, or the combined? Because as you said,
Right.
if I'm living to the future of am I going to be okay after I'm done exercising, I'm already defeated.
Right.
I'm already in the future of uncertainty of how am I going to feel afterwards.
Yeah.
And so you're already bringing that to the workout. You're bringing that to the
It's a certain
conversation.
level of a detachment that you have to the outcome of things.
Mm-hmm.
But not so detached that you can't think of what's to come as possibly a great or even better circumstance. Because if we detach too much, I thought about this for the longest time. The several years ago, I really was a person that would get wrapped up in whatever I hoped a circumstance to look like, whatever I wanted
Mm-hmm.
the outcome to be. If it couldn't be this outcome that I wanted, I was all sad and depressed, and
Mm-hmm.
the world's coming to an end and disappointed. And so I thought a lot about detachment and learning to detach. But at some point, I got so good at detaching from the outcome that I couldn't see an outcome being good anymore either. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I guess a really out of pocket but good example of this is when we use an hand sanitizer.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just kill the bad bacteria, it kills the
It
good
feels the good
bacteria
too.
too. And
Yes.
so it's like that where we might do all of this work for to detach from something, but are we detaching from a possible amazing outcome as well?
You you have to accept where you are first before you can move forward.
Mm,
You have to accept it. I had to. I recently was started going back to the gym, and my hand swole up. My other finger swole up. Like I was having a problem. Like I experienced this before in the military, but I didn't know it was connected to my sickle cell trait or the rhabdo. So once I started having these pains, I'm like, okay, man. So what is it? Do you really want to play basketball that bad, or do you want to just let your body kind of just
ooh,
maintain itself? And basketball is my stress relief.
yeah,
So I had to literally just say, okay, you know what? My health is more important. So what
yeah,
can I do that I can live my life healthy versus trying to go to the gym because the gym is going to give me the outcome of the feeling of I've done something as a workout. So
Mm,
it was different, but I
yeah.
had to first accept the fact that hey, you can't play ball like you used to, man. Like you can't run up and down the court. You can't do pull-ups and get on the treadmill for 15 minutes no more. Like you can't do that because your body's going to react. And it was hard, but I settled it because the tools that I got from the personal development class was like, okay, let me accept my well-being for what it is today.
Mm,
And it's not who I was at 19 or 40.
yeah.
I'm 54, so you just can't I can't do all that stuff like I used to that my mind says I can, but I had to settle that.
And let me know.
Okay, our 12 play, 12
And
play.
I always change that to, and my body's telling me no too. Like that's what it is.
But that's to me that's me being resilient enough that I don't lose
Yeah.
my mind
Yeah.
because I can't physically do what I want to do unless I want to be in pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an experience to that resilience that you have to also account for. Because if you don't, you're gonna be disappointed. The expectations, you said it. We got to have the expectation talk
Yeah.
because that's part of probably what's in the way as a wedge to all of it is
I
because
would
I have this
love,
expectation.
I'm writing that down. I have been waiting a very long time to have the expectations talk.
Okay.
Um, and I think it's about time because, in fact, we talked about this. We've talked about this several times on Project Joy, but it came up very firm during the show that Brittany was on. I had a moment. In fact, Mandy was in the comments talking about how I was having my white chicks BS moment. Um, is what I because I was because I get riled up about expectations on both sides of the fence, which is not surprising with me because I like to examine all parts of things. You know, like I really like to take it apart, examine it, put it back together, maybe put it in a pretty little bow. And so I think we need to have the expectations conversation because I think that'll be
They get in the way.
time.
They
It's
they 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 get in the way. They really get in the way.
yeah, they do for sure. Um, so I think we sort. Do we want to answer the question directly? Like I know you don't like the word resilience, so but
I'm gonna play along.
if we put it in terms of like them there being tangible tools that we can use to
Okay.
help set ourselves up for I'm going to say success and not bouncing back because I really do, I'm not feeling that today, not after yesterday, not today. um um and so is it possible to practice resilience outside of a circumstance that requires resilience, like
Yeah,
or without?
definitely.
Yeah.
It's called mental health classes.
Mhm.
It's called today.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, that's the
Now
show.
now it's called mindfulness.
Mm,
So, whatever happened with the moon and the stars and how the zodiac signs all changed over and now you got to be aware of your emotions, especially as men. Like
mm.
we got to as men today, you got to be in connection with your emotions. My grandfather didn't have to do that back in his days.
He
Today
didn't
as a man,
he didn't have to be vulnerable.
he didn't have to be vulnerable back then. It was my house, my rules. Now, as a male and man, you got to be in touch with your feelings and emotions, and it's not a bad thing actually.
Yeah.
I think not that I think, but I believe that the mindfulness stuff today is very helpful
Mm,
for us to get in touch with our feelings and emotions. But as my mom said to me one day, people are taking too much advantage of that conversation as well.
mm. People are taking advantage of whatever conversation they want to take advantage of these days. I don't know if you have noticed that, but I can't.
So yes, my answer to that question is yes. It starts with A1, managing your emotions, because
Mm,
again, how I think about myself when I did all of my work, it was really all of it pointed back to me, Farron,
mm,
and how I thought about myself all those years, how disappointed I was in myself. all the expectations that I had about myself that I didn't fulfill on,
Mm.
that I was incomplete about.
Right.
Years of incompletions that I carried in my future. So I'm living into those incompletions because they're going to happen again one day. And I don't want to feel that incompletion again. But every time I feel it, well, no wonder, because I'm doing the same thing that I did in the past to respond to that. So it's always going to turn out that way.
Right.
So you
Right.
got to get in touch with your, and that's why mental health, the label mental health is so important. But you got to find those principles that you agree with in life, that you can challenge your mind up against something outside of your own subconscious mind.
Mm.
So definitely there's principles out there.
Yeah. I want to kind of take a little side road for a
Let's
moment
go.
because you said it. Because here we go. Because you said a phrase that is bringing back a lot of things for me here. So you said managing your emotions.
Mhm.
I'm trying to shift that in my own life to managing the actions of our emotions, using that phrase instead of managing the emotions ourselves. Because in my
Mhm.
how I process this through me is that by me saying I need to manage my emotions implies that some of my emotions are right or wrong. And I don't think that that's I think our emotions just happen. It's part of us being
Yeah, we
human.
can't.
So what we need to do is work on the actions that we take as a result of our emotions. And the reason I'm taking this side road is because we had a beautiful conversation last Saturday in Soul Saturday Morning Coffee, and we were talking about because our age ranges in our group are really amazing. Like I think yeah, we have somebody in their 30s and we have someone in their high 60s. So I mean, it's very cool to have that generational difference. You know, from talking to Caldwell, how interesting it can be to have like just the generational aspects of a conversation. But anyway, we were talking about people being offended, and
Mm.
people being uh feeling unsafe
Mhm.
was the conversation. And
Mhm.
that we talked about one of our guests, and I keep it confidential, but one of our guests was talking about how before it would be like unsafe is like someone's chasing you with something, or
Mhm.
like those are things that made us feel unsafe. But now it's like so many people, she was feeling riled up by the fact that a lot of times now it's like somebody says something someone else doesn't like and now they feel unsafe because they
Mhm.
said something that they didn't like. And I think that that is where the managing the actions of our emotions is so important, because we need to ask ourselves those questions. And
Mhm.
like, what are we actually unsafe, or are we just upset by what somebody said?
You know, listen to you share that, and as my subconscious mind is now on my side most of the time, what it brought to my attention was how we as people, we don't want to look bad, but yet there's, how can I say this? I still think it leads back to the expectation, because
Mm,
our show, if we peel off the layer of the show title Beyond 2D, we're
yeah.
actually talking about the phenomenon of language,
Yeah.
right? It's a language, because all the topics that we brought up, accountability, communication,
Communication,
they're all language. Because
forgiveness.
look, I
Yeah.
can't show you disrespect in the corner of my over there. There's disrespect right there. Oh, disrespect is right there behind you. Oh, unsafe is behind you. Like, it's a language phenomenon.
Yeah.
So, like you said, what am I saying to myself when I feel like I'm unsafe? Well, maybe because your comment is really something about me that I don't like about myself.
Mm,
So now I can't let you point that out about me because I feel that already. And how dare you say that to me?
right.
Like, so to me, that's the language phenomenon of the survival state of mind, because I'm gauging that everything you say up against how I feel about myself.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you say something that I feel disrespectful to me, then I'm disrespected.
Mm,
So it goes back to the self awareness. which is my number one for resilience.
That's Farron's number one tool for resilience, everybody. We're going to take a quick break.
Self-awareness.
I want you to take a look at maybe perhaps, where is it? I'm just looking. I'm not being very resilient. Or there it is. We're going to take a quick look at the friendship paradox as well as a quick commercial. We'll be right back after this with more on resilience. Will we be resilient when we come back? Will Jessica be able to speak English? No one knows.
Just not today.
Tuned.
On April 4th, I was 90 years old, grandson of slaves. My parents were first generation free. A long time ago, I embraced the definition of love. Love is the experience of well-being. And a friend is one who mutually shares that experience of well-being with you, which opens up almost infinite creative possibilities.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org.
Welcome back to Beyond 2D. Today is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, 92424. Look how we did there. That's kind of cool. Okay. We're talking about resilience. This is week 2 of our series on resilience. Last episode, we talked about the definition of, and this episode, we are discussing building resilience. And we already know that Farron feels some kind of way about the word. So you can tell by his body language over there.
I don't use that word in my life.
We're here to, and you know, the more we go, I think we're in agreement on this one. Especially, I shared with Farron before the show. You know, he and I are really good at picking topics for any of the shows we do, and then they show up in our lives as a way to visit them or practice them. And it's like, thanks God for believing in my resilience, because it's a lot to have to deal with. So I wanted to go through. I have like 10 little things that we can kind of talk about as where resilience is concerned, and we've already talked about some of them. Tools for building resilience: number one, reframe your perspective and ask yourself. So going back to asking yourself more questions.
Yeah.
Resilience often begins with how we perceive the challenges. It's the mental stuff that Farron is talking about. Reframing difficult situations as opportunities to learn and grow can help shift our mindset from feeling defeated to feeling empowered. Practice
Mhm.
saying, what is this teaching me, instead of why is this happening to me?
The opportunity.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's It's hard sometimes. I mean, I've talked to people before about this. When you're in the midst of something, and like, especially with some of the physical stuff that we've dealt with before, of like when you're in physical pain, it is really hard to be like, what is this teaching me right now? Because it's teaching me to take a nap. Is what it's teaching me. But that's about it's hard. It's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
To
But see,
Go
but
ahead.
but again, we point to the physical aspect of that,
Right.
but not the mental aspect of it. And that's what I've learned in my last 14 years is it's not just what I do in life, but who I be as an experience. And if I catch that experience and where it's coming from, and especially if it's a negative, and I tell the truth where that is coming from, usually that's not happening today in this
Yeah,
moment of time. So to be able to catch that is very important. So,
I
but
agree.
yeah, I
I
hear you
agree.
though. But we go
But
physical first.
yeah, but that comes from my number two, which is
Oh,
cultivating self-awareness, which is
yes.
what we talked about.
That's what I like. That's what I like.
Understanding your emotions and the actions of them, or how you respond to them, how you respond to stress, help in journaling classes. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do I mean, you can meditate and pray to examine, to become self-aware, and just sit in the quiet for a minute. I
Could that be a
appreciate
could that be accountability? A phase of accountability?
I think it's a part of accountability. Yeah, I think we should definitely talk about accountability to ourselves, but also the importance of having people to help us be accountable, because sometimes we will lie to ourselves. We will make it so that we are doing anything but succeeding. And we'll say, though, but I'm
I'm bouncing
accountable
back
for,
and I'm bouncing
oh,
back.
I'm resilient and accountable, but that's not what we're being.
That's not how I feel.
Yeah, that's it. Number three, build some kind of support network for yourself. Having people. I don't think we're meant to be on this earth alone. If we were, we would be. But I don't think that that's our human experience. But having support during tough times is good. But I I kind of say this one lightly, because there's so much that goes into relationships and support, our definition of support. We had this conversation during the grief series where
Mhm.
we talked about, somebody will die, and they'll bring you a meal, but like you just needed your kids washed,
Right.
watched for a minute so that you could get a shower and have the dishes done, like
Right.
like I think that support requires such a huge willingness to effectively communicate, I think,
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to say with that. So I
Yeah.
say build a support network as a resilient, but if you're willing to I mean, it requires some work, I feel like, to have a good support network. um Mindfulness, prayer, meditation. My If you would have asked my grandmother how to be more resilient, she would have told you to pray.
Hmm.
That's it.
See, we don't have Are we open to talk about spirituality through the whole segments
Uh,
of these, or do we save it for the fourth one? Usually, we save it for the last series of this.
no, we're all over the place this
We're all
time.
over the place. Okay, cool. Yeah. So today, um, I that biblical principle conversation is number one,
Mm,
right? So the prayer, the faith, the belief, the repentance, the forgiveness. Um, I filter everything that I've learned and my past experiences through those principles of the Bible. Everybody
mm,
has a perspective what the Bible is for them. Um, but if you really understand that word, they're principles to be used by, to live from.
Mm,
And those stories, those passages are stories to show you what it looks like when you don't live by those principles and what people
mm,
go through, right? So for me, I had to figure out what's leading my life, my subconscious mind or my mind or my spirit. And so again, you got to find things that you believe in. I had to get a new philosophy, ideology, and theology for myself because the ones that I had were all corrupted. They were all had misinformation in them. So I had to figure out today, what do I believe in today?
mm,
And what principles. So that's why the mental health was so important. I believe those principles. I used them, I applied them, and I got freedom from them. I used
mm.
the biblical principles and I got freedom from them. I got delivered from some stuff. I got a better like so all those things. What are you using to say that you're resilient? Are you
Right.
using your own mind to get the resilience, or are you using things outside of you? As she's pointed to these tools that are available.
Right. Right.
So I had to figure that
Yeah.
out for myself.
Yeah, and I think that's, that's a journey for everybody to take, figure out what those core values, principles, what those things are for you that and 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 how are we leaning on them? Like because I go back to I think it's easy to use resilience or lack of resilience as an excuse for things, instead
Mhm.
of actually doing the work as well. I've said I don't know how many times in my life, God gives us hands and feet for a reason. Like we're meaning that we got to do the work.
Yeah.
It's not just about sitting back and go, well, I'm going to wait for it to rain tacos because I'm hungry. Like,
Yeah.
you got to go make yourself a taco. It's
But the
taco
network,
Tuesday.
you pointed to the network, and the network again, you got to find people in your life that you trust, that are not going to judge you for your behavior,
Mhm.
that are not going to judge you for your character, that really like,
Right.
you know what, you don't have to go through this by yourself, but you
Yeah.
but you but you have to be willing to tell the truth, if not to me, to yourself.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the first, to me, that's the first step. Are you tired enough? Are you resigned and cynical that I know I'm, you know what, I want to live this life no more.
Mm.
I want there's got to be something better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are people like us here who encourage that.
Mm.
Like you've got to be able to figure that out for yourself and tell the truth and find somebody who you trust that you can have these kind of talks with that we're having
Right.
on the air.
Right.
These are real life conversations that we have.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were talking before about an interaction that I had with someone yesterday. And I really, one of the things that I've been thinking about in my own mind is that I feel like a lot of times people respond the way they do because they don't, they've never had a conversation like we've had here.
Mm-hmm.
They've never disagreed and it's okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
they feel threatened or they feel any number of things they could feel, but and so I think about that. I walk away from those interactions. I'm sad when things like that happen, but I also there's nothing that I can do except know that on this platform we create the space for that and it's available for anybody free of charge,
Yeah.
with an internet connection to
For
just
real.
listen, or partake in that. um the next one on the list is an interesting one. i, I have a side note for it, but it says focus on what you can control. And for me, the only control that we have in a situation goes back to what we were talking about with emotions is how you react to things. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only 100% control is how you react to things. And one of the things that it mentioned, again, going back to prayer as well, is the serenity prayer.
Mm.
I really have come to enjoy enjoy that prayer during challenging moments, because it reminds me like how are you going to react in this situation, because for me control means how am I going to react.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay to react.
Mm.
However, are you being responsible for your reactions?
Mm.
Right? So we're going to react. But the more that you practice these principles and these tools, guess what? The faster you catch that reaction. Oh, you know what? Oh, I didn't mean to say that.
Right.
Oh, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to say that to you like that. Let me try this again. But if you do that and then you walk away from that person,
Yep.
and then you go home and you're like, man, did I really say that to that person? Yeah, all right, whatever. And you
Yeah.
don't go clean it up. So improving these skills and understanding where and like you said, you're not gonna stop those thoughts.
Right.
And the best thing you can do is be responsible for your actions. And when I took responsibility for my behavior and my actions, I got free from them.
Hmm.
Because now I recognize when they show up. And if they show up out of context, you know what? I gotta go acknowledge that. Hey, I didn't mean to say that like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But is now able to do that maybe in 2 days versus 2 years later.
Yeah. How long? I always ask people on the show, how long do you want to sit in it? Is the question.
How long?
Yeah, well, I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm allowed to grieve. I'm allowed to be angry. Absolutely. So
You
the
are.
next question, now that we agree. We agree on that. Now the next question is, how long would you like to sit in it?
Yes.
That's it. And a lot of times we're not going to agree on that, but that's where our own life choices, come into play. Just, it is. And I think we all have our own. Again, we all have, I think going back to our main topic is just resilience. It's another thing. We all have our own definition of it.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to be resilient? If you and I had the same exact, medical issue, okay, let's just say we have the same exact diagnosis. My idea of resilience is waking up the next day, and yours is running a marathon. Like we might have a very different idea of what it looks like to be resilient, and so understanding that, I think, as well is.
But how does that? You just now you see, because I'm on the prowl right now. How does that affect even relationships when the couples come together and they have these two different views of language, right? And you're resilient about this one thing, and your partner's not, and they're going crazy over that circumstance, and you're like, no, I'm cool, like I got this. But that could destroy that relationship though, because
absolutely.
And so now you're making me think, like, if I decide to do this again, like we got to be on the same page in our language though.
Yeah, I mean,
At least
I don't think that you have to be on the same page with your language. I think you both have to be willing to discuss that language when it becomes an issue maturely, effectively. Because I mean, as much as my husband annoys me from time to time, I appreciate when we don't see eye to eye, on little things like that, on words, because we do a lot with words. It's still wild to me. My husband is Canadian, and even you would think, because we're both North American countries, that but there's really is a lot of differences in how we interpret certain words and things like that. So we come back to the table a lot. It's not always fun.
right.
It's not always fun, but I think that's that's like literally top of my list of things that I appreciate the most about my husband, is how we've been able to grow together through new understandings of things.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me is where
that's the biggest. But they say that's the biggest. It's not the sex and all the other stuff. It's, can you communicate when the rubber meets the road and there's a disagreement? And I'm not, and I don't bounce back. I'm out. We don't bounce back. We out of here.
And that's, there's a lot of people that I see that will have an issue and they'll be mad and they just leave. And that's one of my husband and I have had that conversation often, that is something that is really traumatic for me, when people just leave when they're mad about a conversation. Like, don't walk away because I feel abandoned. Like, I feel like you're something, and I know what the things are. We're not going to cover them on the show today, but I know I know where that abandonment comes from. I understand it. But I think if we love each other, we have to be able to come to the table and say, I know those things are triggering you, and I'm not going to purposely put you in a space where you feel that. Yes, it's yours to work on. Yes, it's yours to heal from and work on, but I'm not going to purposely lay the groundwork for you to feel that.
Yeah,
like,
you got to do that. You're going to do it to yourself anyway.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go over these other things super
Okay.
quick before we'll just go through them quick, and then we'll say what we say. Number 6 is set small, achievable goals. Like, those are set some goals for yourself to be resilient, but again, detaching from the outcome. So number 7, it's the physical. Again, develop some healthy habits, because the physical supports the mental supports the physical, and Farron and I are familiar with that, both of us, because like we talked about, sometimes those days when the physical comes up, it makes the mental more challenging to grasp onto. It's not always easy. Number 8, learning from setbacks. Failure is setbacks are part of life, and then examine what those words mean to you.
So
what do they mean to you?
So the failure, right? So again, I had to get a new language phenomenon for failure that I found. Like, you know what? Yeah, because if we tell the truth, we inherit a lot of our language from our environment, right? So, oh, this is what failure is. You're taught that early on as a child. This is failure. Oh, and then you have the body sensation. Oh, that's what, and it feels like failure. But when I heard that, imagine failure is doing what you don't want to do and doing it anyways. And I got so free from failure, because I looked at my life and I was like, well, you know what? I am doing some stuff that I don't want to do, and I'm doing it anyway. And I'm complaining that it's not working out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and I was able to try that on, and it fit. So it's like, there's no failure. Oh, your failure's by your chair. There's failure over there. No, it's a language phenomenon.
Yeah.
And so again, when you take these principles and you apply them to your life and you challenge yourself up against it, you might find some words that don't fit who you are today anymore.
Yeah.
But
sometimes it takes an example of something else too. When I became free from the word failure, one of my very first guests on the Breakthrough Show was Miha Matlievsky from over in Serbia. And his job title is a fail coach. He helps people fail. His book that he wrote that's a journal of sorts, helps you get in touch with your failures and what failure means to you, and how he calls it failing forward. Like, you're failing through something. You're not like coming to the stopping point at the end all be all of your life. You're moving forward through it. And that really, I don't know if he knows this, but I'm going to refer him to this episode. Really, he freed me from that word failure, because it was such a great, it's something I didn't even think about. It's sort of an act of resilience, or a preparation for resilience, to go to examine what your relationship is to failure.
Yeah, because how are you going to bounce back if you don't know what you're bouncing back from?
Where's my bell?
The big ding 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 ding.
I still
you gotta know what you're bouncing back from.
I have not been very resilient when it comes to having changed my office around, because I still don't know where my stuff is. Anyway,
that's why you don't move stuff around, ladies and gentlemen.
This is why, don't move my stuff. I can't find it.
Don't clean up.
That's it. Just let everything be a mess. Number 9 was embrace adaptability, and it's kind of on the topic which I love a lot, which is about change is inevitable. Like, change is us, at a very physical level, our molecules and cells and all of that are changing every moment in our bodies, and nature changes in that way too. So learning, it says to think of resilience as bending, not breaking. Like just sort of working through. It's a commitment to working through things, I think. And
Yeah.
finally, cultivate optimism and gratitude. Working on positive thinking. It doesn't mean ignoring the negative. It means focusing on solutions, like we talked about, failing forward, practicing gratitude, thinking of things that you're grateful for, even if it's challenging.
Can you read the first part of that again? You said cultivating what?
Cultivating optimism and gratitude.
Okay.
I want to. Do you know the movie, the old movie Pollyanna?
No.
I'm so glad that we're doing this tonight. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I made this big long post yesterday. Farron is familiar with it. It is now public on my page because I had friends request to share it. So it is, you can go to my Facebook page, Jessica Suzanne Dugas, and it's there if you feel so moved. But I mentioned being called Pollyanna. Someone who is referred to as Pollyanna is overly optimistic and cheerful. And it's kind of but going back, there was a movie many years ago starring Haley Mills that is called Pollyanna. Her name's Pollyanna. And in this film, her parents were missionaries. They lived a very poor life, and then they ended up dying, and she's sent to live with her aunt. And she's a very like upbeat child for someone who like literally lived a life of poverty and then just lost her parents on top of it. She's very optimistic. And she goes throughout the movie, she's meeting the townspeople. And the one lady is so stuck on her, like her health, that she literally every time they cut to her, she's picking out fabric for the inside of her casket because she's just gonna die at any moment, and she's just having a whole fit. And she starts telling the townspeople about this game that her father taught her to play, and it's called the Joy Game. And they're like, well, okay, what is this game? And she tells them it's where you go when you're going through something, you take a minute and find something about it that is joyful. And they're all, in disbelief. They're like, not everything. These are some grumpy townspeople. And then they're like, you can't find joy in everything. And she tells this, they were like, well, give us an example. So she tells this story about how, her parents were missionaries. And so they would have to like get donations basically to be able to give her Christmas gifts. Mm-hmm. And one year she wanted a doll really, really bad. All she wanted was a doll. And when the box came for Christmas, it was crutches. It wasn't a doll. It was a pair of crutches.
Okay.
And so the lady, the real grumpy lady that's planning her death in every scene, she says to her, now, what is joyful about that? And she said, well, the joy is that I don't have to use the crutches. And so it's sort of ironic that her name is Pollyanna and she's, that's overly optimistic little girl. But I really feel strongly right now that every single person on planet Earth needs to watch that movie because it really is a choice. It really is a choice. And I really feel after we've been talking about this so far that we can choose to be resilient or not.
What I don't like, and I used to get called this before my personal development courses, that I wore the rose-colored sunglasses. Like, everything can't be joyous and fun for you. Like, what? You
Pollyanna too.
Like, what's wrong with you? Like, but I've been that way though.
Yeah.
But it's like you just wear this rose-colored sunglasses. I'm like, okay, and
what's so bad about that?
There's nothing bad. Again, when it points back to the person who is dealing with what they're dealing with, then the misery loves company cliche comes in, and it's like, or you say something that they don't feel that about themselves. Like Caldwell's education most recently taught me, after these 6 years of hanging out with him, speaking without offending is so powerful. But on the other side of that coin is listening without defending. is so powerful. So which one are you going to be? Are you going to speak without offending, or are you going to listen without defending? And if you can imagine living a life with either one of those sides, you're going to be at peace. There's nothing's going to bother you. Like, there's nothing that anybody can say that can bother you, and there's nothing that you're going to say that could bother anyone, because you're going to be responsible for your language and how
That's
you
going
listen.
on. That's going on a note on
Like,
my board up
when
here.
when he when I asked him that and he said that, my subconscious mind went to all the things that I had said to people that week that I could have
Hmm.
offended,
Yep.
from from a space of concern and worry and love, because we love people. We don't want no one to be stuck in these kind of conversations. And
Right.
sometimes we say things to help you get out of that situation, and that may not be what that person wants to hear.
Mm.
So when he said that, speaking without offending, I was like, oh, okay, never mind, bye. I gotta call some folks because
Yeah.
I could tell the truth to myself and say I've spoke to some people that I may, and now I see why they got defensive in my communication.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
without those tools that I learned, I wouldn't even know that, to recognize that.
Yeah. Yep. And it helps you too when you're doing those things. Even in the post that I made yesterday, uh, I rarely make really long posts like I did. It's because I really have to feel like have something important to say to do, because it's a lot of work to to write stuff out. But and I really don't think of myself as a great writer, but it usually comes out okay. I'll give myself that credit.
Yeah.
But I try to filter everything that I say through the lens of love, and no matter what, or peace, or whatever I'm feeling in the moment, the intention is goodness for everybody that reads it. I don't never want anybody to take something a certain way, but there's always going to be someone who's committed to misunderstanding you.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I love that phrase. I love that, that thought that there's going to be those people that are just not willing to have the conversation. And so I think that one of the best ways that we can be resilient, the tools as we finish up today's episode for me is the willingness to have conversation. That's such a big part of resilience. We can't move forward um, if we're unwilling to examine those things that come up for us um, personally. And so I think communication is going to be the biggest tool for me as we finish up this episode. What are your final thoughts, Farron?
Yeah, I'm just gonna list them.
Yep.
Self-awareness,
Yep.
mindfulness, manage your emotions, cognitive reconstructing, shift the negative thoughts, developing a growth mindset, and to see challenges as an opportunity, and maintaining your physical health and exercising.
We said the same.
We're on the same page tonight. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
It's so good. And so we
That's
said the same
that's
things. I
that's
love it.
where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
I love it. Some of y'all don't know that we pick a topic. We pick a topic and we just roll with it. We don't
Yeah.
talk about. We
We
don't
don't
talk
talk about it. Yeah.
before
We don't talk
about.
before nothing.
Yeah.
Nope.
And I think that that's good, because I think in our situation, when we're having really, sometimes really challenging conversations, I think it's important for people to know, like, are they planning this ahead of time? Like, are they already on the same page? I think our idea was to come on here and be who we are and be from where we are, and go. Go.
And like I said, when you learn again, when you learn about how powerful our languages and our words are, you're gonna
Yeah.
realize that there's some words that you don't want to use anymore because they don't give you power.
Mm.
And these are words that I don't use anymore because they just don't give me. They take me to that survival state of mind. I could be causing. I could be the effect of life, or I could be the cause of life. And I've learned to be the cause of life, and
Right.
all of it, even the negative, what doesn't work. I'm the cause of that, and if I could take responsibility for being the cause of it's not working, then you don't get blamed for anything.
Yeah.
I'm taking responsibility for my behavior, for my
Right.
actions. And so that frees that other person up to just be yourself.
Mm. So let's make, we haven't done this
Okay.
before, but I think we need to make a decision
Mm.
because I don't think either one of us really enjoy the word resilience. But I'm trying to think of what we could use in its place. If both of our ideas is an energy of moving forward, like
Oh,
what would you put in replace in place of resilience?
you got perseverance.
Perseverance. I
You
like
got
that
you
one.
got strength. You got self confidence.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those are the first ones that come to mind for me. Is that perseverance,
Yeah.
things like that.
I think I like perseverance. I think I like that word because to me that says a willingness.
Exactly.
It's
That's
a choice, and that's so much
exactly.
yeah. Okay, so for the next episode was supposed to be resilience in the face of adversity, and I'm gonna just change it to
Cool.
perseverance in the face of adversity
Let's
because
get it.
we're grown people over here and we can make our own decisions. Um,
We have
and then
the willingness to do
we
this.
do. We do. And then the final episode was supposed to be cultivating a resilient community, but I think cultivating a community that perseveres.
Oh, because this is we're only in episode number 2 right now.
Yeah,
We
we have
still
two
got
more.
next month.
Two more. And I think these next two, talking about adversity and community, I think are going to be particularly important, especially as we inch ever so closely to November 5th. And you guys know that I love to
Mm.
talk about that fabulous day without actually talking about it. I like to talk about what we're doing. What are we doing on the ground? What conversations are we having? What kind of leaders are we being? Because if you're putting all of your ability to be resilient, your ability to persevere in one person that you think you're going to cast a vote for, oh, talk about needing to detach from expectations.
I may have lost a friend over a conversation about something that ain't even happened yet.
I did last night. My stance last night was love. My stance last night was coming together, and I lost a friend over that. So I didn't say a name.
Mm.
Didn't even say a name.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think this is going to be a great conversation. We have 2 more weeks of this, and I really do. I think after we talk tonight, I think maybe before the end of the year we can have a conversation about expectations, or you know,
Definitely that one.
because I think I'm personally really ready for that. I've been waiting for that for a
Are
long
you
time.
are you are you ready to give up those expectations?
I'm ready to go. I've been holding on to this one, and I may actually break my own rule that I made for myself and
Oh.
read a certain book that I was unwilling to read up until this point for that episode.
Ooh. Interesting.
So, Jessica's gonna get out of her own way for that show, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot to say.
Okay. Well, let's make it through October 1st. Let's make it through October 1st, as in first finish this series, and then we'll develop
Yeah.
the next one. That's going to
Yeah.
be interesting.
I love you so much, my friend.
I love you too. Thank you.
Our conversations always just, I feel better now. I feel lighter when we get to have these conversations, and with you guys. I appreciate you. Rhonda's out here this evening. Crystal came in late, but Crystal,
What's
I
up,
love you so
Crystal?
much too, and we would love for you to go back and watch from the beginning, because I feel
Fellas,
like
where are my see, I sent this link to my new ABA basketball team players, hoping that somebody would come on here and back me up, but all right.
we need y'all to gather the fellas for for the episode, because we do tend to have a lot. Every
Anyone?
now and then we
Anyone?
have a fella drop in to
Anyone?
support Farron, but
Anyone?
Bueller.
Anyone?
Bueller.
Anyone?
so much too. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you. Definitely go back and watch episodes 1 and 2. We're going to be back on. Let me check the date really quick so that I'm
will
not.
be the 14th or 13th, I think.
I'm going October. Holy,
Yeah,
October 8th
8th. Okay.
is when we come back. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the first week is yeah. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah, we're the second and fourth Tuesday. If you guys, and so we'll be here the 8th, and we're gonna finish up the topic on October 22nd, and then maybe we'll do the expectations thought in the beginning of November as a bonus, and then we'll be coming back for season 3 next year, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I'm not giving this show up. I might have four other shows, but this was not going in there. This is where I get to express myself.
Listen, even in my evaluation for what path I was going to take next year, because I always get real reflective starting in September, and so I was thinking about what are we going to do for next year, and I would never, I could never.
Yeah, this is my self-expression right here, y'all.
It is. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We encourage you this week to persevere until the next time we meet. We are officially changing the titles for the next episodes because we are grown people and we're
perseverance.
Allowed. We're in charge.
There's a way to be. Be perseverance. Look it up.
That's it. Perseverance. Okay, we'll talk about it next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Your life.
Bye.
Peace out.